Hi everyone, I'm starting a new quilt today and you know how exciting that feeling is. You too can make this quilt alongside me. I'm going to be doing a block a month, completely free. You can just watch on YouTube. I actually designed this one myself, which I'm really pleased with. Don't look at the colors here. This was my testing fabric. I had tried to start like a postcard group, but the postage was horrendously expensive. So instead, we're still going to be doing like an art piece to practice those skills of like using embellishments, using free motion stitching, using applique, and being a bit more artistic with our sewing, but then incorporating it into like a traditional quilt block that we can make into a quilt. Now, I am going to be calling this Grandma's Garden because I want to incorporate items that my grandma Claire had. She was a massive crafter, sewer extraordinaire. She could do pretty much everything. She didn't actually make quilts, believe it or not, but she did teddy bears, porcelain dolls, making clothes, making all the clothes for her dolls, tapestries, which are the tapestries I have in my house, decoupage. Oh, Mum, help me out if you're in the comments. What else did Grandma do? Insanely prolific with her crafting. So we have a lot of, I have a lot of lace making that belonged to her and that she made that I'd like to incorporate in this quilt. The theme is going to be using up my grandma's items and flowers. So that would be the center blocks. And then I'm going to be doing the diamond in my hand dyed fabrics, which are these colors here that I've chosen, and then white in this part. So then, and white strips down between. So it will look like really bright diamonds with these beautiful little art pieces in the center. Now, what I wanted to tell you is that's my theme, but you can come up with your own theme. So I'm going to go through like the 4 elements that are going to be in our textile art, and that's texture, applique, stitch design, and embellishments. So you take those 4 aspects of this art quilt piece, but you can come up with your own theme. So if you're into something in particular, like you might be into, I don't know, teacups. So you could do a different teacup design on every one. Or you might be into like artwork and you could like pick an artist like Picasso and do a Picasso inspired sort of image on the center of these. So you can pick your own theme, but mine's going to be Grandma's Garden. This video, I'll show you the center block, how I'm making that, and then the measurements for how to get these triangles and how to put those on. So no gatekeeping, all the measurements will be in this video. You'll be able to get them all. So let me show you her lace and what she has in here, and then we'll get started with this center block. So look how much lace I have. Now, I'm sure she didn't make all of this lace, but she certainly did make a lot of lace in her day. So, for example, that's just a commercial lace, but this looks like it is her lace. So incredible workmanship here. So I have all this lace that I want to sort of use. Oh, look at this, guys. Look how old that book is. It's falling apart, but I think this would be worth a lot of money. Isn't that amazing? And it has, this is her writing. Squeeze an orange each morning and stir into 2 level teaspoons gelatin. Drink this every morning for 2 months and you'll have elegant fingernails. Oh my gosh. For brittle fingernails. That's so cool. So there's that, but that's obviously can't go in the quilt. She has an apron here. She used to do smocking. She made me a smocking dress when I was a little girl. It was so gorgeous. That's just a tea towel. These are her doilies. I've also got this in here just to keep it. This is my son's handprint when he was in prep, but he's 15 now. So different elements that I could potentially use in my work. I'm also going to go over to my mum's house. She doesn't know this yet. So if you're watching, Mum, I'm going to come and steal some things out of your craft room that were Grandma's that I could add to this quilt. And the actual, like, then applique flowers and things, I'm going to use my Liberty fabrics. Got those tonal ones, but then I've got some bright ones as well. So I'll be using those. And just while I'm here, I'll show you the hand-dyed fabrics that I haven't dyed fabric in years. I went through a phase of making so much that I still have fabrics that I can use. Okay, for the first center rectangle, you need to cut a piece of fabric that is 6.5 by 4.5 inches. That way, when it is sewn into the block, it'll be 6 by 4. And I have ironed on a very lightweight fusible web or lightweight interfacing that has the glue on one side. See how light that is? I have gone ahead and cut the rectangle of the same amount and ironed that onto the back just to give it a little bit more stability when we're adding all our items on top. You need to add some texture. I'm going to add lace. Another thing I was thinking is that you could couch some yarn, like with a zigzag stitch, and put some yarn on here. Textured fabric, some very open weave linen or silk would be nice. But I'm going to do lace. So let me pick my piece of lace. She put pins in all these lace to hold them. But over the, decades, they've all gone rusty. So I'll be throwing that out and not putting it back in. So my grandmother died when I was pregnant with my first baby. So my grandma knew I was having a baby, but she never met my baby. So that was a bit sad. So that's, Lila's now 17. So that was 18 years ago that she died now. I'm just going to probably just stitch these down in a straight line. I'm just going to put one here and one this way and sew them down with a straight stitch, and that will just add a little bit of interest and texture. So last year my mum and I went to a lady's house who was selling heaps of fabric, and I bought this. You might have seen that video. I'll link it below if you missed it. So I thought I might actually use it. I've got 3 colorways of the same fabric, and I'm thinking like circles and layers of circles to make like just a field, and I'll do lots of stems and leaves. So I think I'll just cut circles or circular shapes, not exact circles, out of these. Fine cotton, designed by a famous Australian fabric designer, John Caldor. 3 colorways. So that set was $5, all these fabrics, $5 Australian. It's got cute little flowers on it. All right. And I'm going to be keeping my design 1/4 of an inch away from the edge because that will be included in the seam. All right, I won't make you watch me do this. If I click my fingers, it'll be all done. So this is what I have decided on. I didn't like circles and I didn't like just one shape. I decided to make lots of little parts so they sort of look like roses. Oh, just looking at this one, I don't like how that's set up. It looks a bit like a windmill. I might change that one. So now if I had glue in the house, I would probably, with just a glue stick, glue these in place so they don't move. But I'm sure there's some in my daughter's room, but she's still asleep. And I can't wake up a sleeping teenager to find glue. So we're just going to have to, does that look better? These are like dint, and these are just, yeah, boomerangs. I might change these so they're more like 1, 2. That looks better. This is more just boomerang shapes, so that one's got to change. Sorry, what I was saying is if you had a glue stick, glue these down very slightly. Don't use heaps of glue, but I'm just going to have to hope that they don't move. So I have a free motion machine quilting foot on, and I've dropped my feed dogs, and that's so I can go like this. If you can't drop your feed dogs on your machine, that is okay. You can just use a regular foot and just actually move your piece and stitch forward as you do normally. So use what you have. This is going to be difficult. They're going to move, so just be nice. Just be nice to me. But we will see. Lucky this doesn't have to be perfect, guys. This is called art. Just as long as some of it gets caught, which it is. I'm using a pink variegated thread. I'm going to go off and on. That's fine. This will get cut off. Let's have a look. Was it too bad? It's fine. No problems. No problems. Does not have to be perfect. Now this one is all screwed up now. That's okay. This, if you're a perfectionist, this will be good for you. Because it's letting go and letting the fabric do what it wants. That actually turned out fine. I'm okay with that. All right, let's try this one. Needle down. Oop, that's not where I wanted that to go. Oop, that's not where I wanted that to go. Just did some extra wiggly lines there. Cute. So we've got texture and we have applique. This is raw edge applique. And there's my third flower and my 2 buds. So then this is stitch detail. So we've got applique. Now we've got stitch detail where we're actually going to be running stitch lines that don't have fabric. So I'm going to do lots of verticals and then at the bottom some leaves that are coming out. Let's put this green on and do some more thread sketching. Now I'm going to make these thick by going over the same line a few times. Now this bud could actually come off this, even though, oh, there are different colours. Could be a new variety that I've just invented. Let's put a leaf here. Maybe one over here. Okay, I added some dark green thread as well. So I did go upstairs and iron this because with all the stitching, it got really wrinkled and out of shape. So now it won't be the rectangle that I thought it was. So the interfacing was too light. So if you're doing a lot of stitching like this, you probably need to do a heavier interfacing. Now I did nearly chuck a tanty and give up, but then I thought, no, I'm a big girl, I can problem solve this. And what I've decided is I'm going to cut the whole thing out and stick it on a new piece. All right, so, and that will just add more interest. So it is not a mistake, it is an artistic decision. So I'm just going to cut around the shape of the flowers, leaving, I don't know, what's that, about a 1/4 inch around each. And so this is an example of problem solving in the moment and not being too hard on yourself that you stuffed up. This might even look better. So we have a new piece, little hearts on it. So now I'm going to pop that there. Now I have the opportunity to add even more interest, and you know what I thought would be good? Well, should I put, I like this blue, should I put some blue strips across here? And then when I add that, yes, look, even more interest. I'm just going to try and lift this up a bit for you. And reach through here. I would like some, oh look, this has got 3D parts to it. That might be a bit too much. Let this piece, cutting a bit of that to just center here that the flowers are growing out of them. Okay, I like that. So this is the fourth element, embellishment. Now I know it's also texture, but for embellishment you could also add things that aren't really texture, like little found objects or like plastics. If you're doing like an environmentally theme, like you do a theme on environmental damage or something, and then have, or the ocean, and then have your embellishments as plastics as like a bit of a statement, that would be cool. Or what I'm thinking of is when I go to Mum's house into her craft room, I might have little trinkets or buttons that were buttons like that were grandma's. That definitely, I know she has buttons that belong to grandma, so they're things that you could add as embellishment. But for today, all I really have is this lace and doilies, so that's why I'm using this as my embellishment step. Okay, so I just need to trim that doily and turn it over and trim it so it's the block size. And that is my final centerpiece. And we turned something that was going to be a problem into a really pretty solution. So now let's put the diamond on there. So you can audition your fabrics as to what would be the best for the diamond. I was thinking this purple brings out the blue quite nicely, so I'm going to use this fabric. Yes, they look like triangles. Here's my block. It's 4 triangles to make up the diamond. However, there's a trick to make it super easy. So I've worked out the square that you need to cut, and then you cut your square into triangles. So you need 7.5 inches by 5.5 inches. This is already nice and straight on the edge here. Fabric on the 0 line, on the straight. Lining up my ruler on 7.5 and 7.5 down the bottom as well. I'm cutting that now. I don't need to cut the whole thing, so what I might do is just cut like that. Okay. Then 5.5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5. Okay, throw that away. Here's my triangle. Now I need to slice my triangle by slicing through the center diagonal of the rectangle. So from corner to corner, 1 slice, and ideally without moving your rectangle, corner to corner this way. Okay, then it's going to go here, 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 and here. Basically, I'm going to be joining this to this and this to this. My hand-dyed fabric doesn't have a right or a wrong side, but yours will or might. Now, the other thing you should do is fold this in half and make a little tiny cut. And a little tiny cut, or what you can do is a little tiny triangle, like that. It's probably easier. So you have a notch, and we'll do the same along the top. And then these, pop them definitely where you want them. Fold these in half as well. Triangle point to triangle point. And do the same here to get the center of those. So then when you're sewing them, you do right sides together and you can put your notches together. So there's the notch, the center of that, and the center of this one. So you can run that stitch. So it doesn't really matter if you do these 2 first or those 2 first, just as long as you probably do the same the whole way through the quilt. So put the notches together and just put a pin in. And I'm going to run a 1/4 inch seam. So I'll just put my 1/4 inch seam foot on. I decided not to iron them because I'm going to be ironing them before I add the second lot of triangles anyway. I have ironed those with the seams going outwards. Now I'm going to pop the other 2 triangles on. So again, notches together. And sew in that 1/4 inch. Okay, to trim this block, listen really carefully because it is important, because you want your final block to be square and your rectangle to be square within the square, or like rectangle within the rectangle and not off skew if. So we need to leave a 1/4 inch. Go a bit further. There's a glare right where I'm showing you. That's better. All right. So you want to leave a 1/4 inch between the edge of your block and the edge of the purple, because that's going to be your seam allowance and you don't want to cut off the corner of your rectangle. But at what angle? Like it could be here, it could be there, it could be there. What you need to do is line up a line that goes corner to corner here on your ruler. So you need a 1/4 inch here and a line that's perfect from there to there. So what you could do, see how there is a dotted line here on my ruler, and it goes from this corner exactly to this corner exactly. And here we have a 1/4 inch. There's that red line there. So if that is corner to corner and this is a 1/4 inch, that's where I can cut off this excess. And we do the same on all 4 sides. Then we have a perfect diamond. Now to add the white, we need to cut 2 squares of white, and they're going to be 7 by 5 inches each. So I'm going to be using this fabric here. It's got some little flowers on it. Unfortunately, probably can't get two rectangles out of the same piece. I'm going to cut off this zigzag first. All right, so 7 inches on the edge. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This here. So lining up there, but also the line here. Seven by 5. Again, I'll just trim this. Five inches. Oh, I can. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Will it fit? Oh, because these were probably 10-inch. No. If I didn't cut off that zigzag, probably I could have. Oh well. I don't like the zigzags on the pre-cut fabrics. I know why they do it, so it doesn't fray, but they confuse me as to what the actual measurement is. So 7 inches here. Which we just had a discussion about in our school community group. A few ladies were discussing how they don't like them on the pre-cut fabrics. If you are part of our school group, make sure you get involved and respond to people and have a chat and make friends. And if you're not part of our group, why not? It's fun and it's free. All right, we're going to cut. So if you have a directional fabric, put them both in the same direction, because we want one diagonally in half this way and one diagonally cut in half this way. corner to corner, corner to corner. Corner, corner. Okay, then with your block. So these two are going to go here. These two are going to go here. And then do you see we will end up with a rectangle, and it will be in the same direction as this rectangle if you've done all your cutting correctly. So again, I'm going to notch these in the center. So again, just folding this in half. Hang on. Let me think about that. Do we want it in half from there to there, or do we want it in half from there to there? Probably we do. We probably want to have them lined up where the 1/4 inch seam was going to line up. So we put our notch there. Is that big enough? And our notch on this one again. Oh, this is a bit long. Where that would line up with the 1/4 inch back. Oh, this is a bit trickier. Sorry, guys. Let me test if this is actually correct. So then put those two together, those notches. And so, because you do want to overhang, it will overhang. Let me stitch that one in place and just check that that was correct. Yep. That'll be fine. So did you see how I did the notches? I'll do that again on this side. So you're going to not put the edge of the fabric together. You're going to overhang it a little bit. So if you had it, if you envisage the seam line in 1/4 inch, the edge of the fabrics line up. Oh my gosh. They line up a 1/4 inch down. So there is this little tiny triangle overhang. And that's where you find your center. Give it a bit of a finger press and cut. There is extra. Don't worry, when you see there is extra that you're going to be cutting off. So if you don't get it exactly perfect, it'll be okay, I think. So again, doing the same thing where you're overhanging it and thinking about where a 1/4 inch is and then deciding if the edges... Look, easier said than done, I know. See how you go. And put your little notch there. Now this has a right side and a wrong side, so definitely have your right sides together. Pin and stitch. Okay, and so then you'd iron those open, probably with the seam allowances out because you want to keep this rectangle in the center flat. And do you see how that perfectly comes to the very edge of your corner there? So no cutting off your corner. All right, so I'm going to iron that and then do the same here and here. So I'll click my fingers and we'll have a finished block. Here it is. So we just need to trim the block and it is finished. How good does that look? Now, I think this will look fabulous with a dark diamond on a light background like I've done, so that your full quilt is lots of diamonds. However, there's nothing stopping you doing light and dark if you prefer. So up to you. So now we need to just square the block off. Again, we need to have a 1/4 inch past the diamond on each corner. But this time we need our internal lines to be parallel to the side of our art block. So I just sort of swivel my ruler until I've got a 1/4 inch past the diamond tip, and these lines are running parallel to the side of my center patch. And doing the same on each side. So, and when you have a corner, you can also use this line here. You can also use a line that goes corner to the corner of the diamond. So using all the lines to help you. Voila! There is the final quilt block. So it's all complete. My first block of my new quilt. What do you think? So this is going to be called Grandma's Garden. I want to know, are you going to make this quilt as well? And if so, what is going to be your theme on the internal artistic blocks? I'd love to hear. If you would like to share your blocks with other members of the quilting community from all around the world, make sure you jump onto our school community. It's free to join and we're a friendly bunch and we can share what we're doing. And we'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.